So for our 10-year anniversary, we went on our very first premium cruise. We had cruised Carnival, Royal Caribbean, MSC up to that point, but we wanted to do something special. And we took our first Princess cruise. It was a 10-day, 10-year anniversary. It was a Southern Caribbean cruise, and the memories will last the rest of our lives. It was incredible. I mean, Princess really does hold a special place in my heart. And this month, setting sail for the first time is the Sun Princess. So let's take a look at this new ship's Caribbean itineraries for 2024 and 2025. Hey, welcome to This is the Cruise. I'm Clint, and this is the channel where we look at upcoming cruise itineraries and try to find out if this is the cruise for you. Today, we're looking at Sun Princess's Caribbean itineraries. The Sun Princess is beginning her voyages over in the Mediterranean, and the itineraries, they do look really nice, but we're gonna focus on her Caribbean sailings, so let's get right to it. When I started researching these itineraries, I got a bit confused. I use a number of different websites to do some research, and when I went to Princess's website, looked up the Sun Princess, chose the Caribbean itineraries, I ended up seeing about 14 different cruise itineraries, and that's okay. The problem was that they all looked really similar. As I was scrolling through, like, is that one going to the same place? It has a different name. It got confusing. So then as I got to the bottom of the page, I saw that they have a number of 14-day itineraries. Like, oh, great, you can do so 14-day. And then I looked a little closer and saw, oh, it's just repeating 7-day itineraries back to back. So order number one, get rid of those 14-day itineraries. And that got me down to 8 itineraries. Then I looked at the dates and realized, oh, they actually are allowing us to now book into the 2025-2026 Caribbean cruising season, which is a year later yet. So I set the filter to October 2024, which is this year, through March of 2025. The Sun Princess arrives in the Caribbean for the first time in October of 2024, and she leaves the Caribbean to go back to the Mediterranean in March of 2025. So I got rid of all of the other stuff and just looked at those, and I was left with 5 itineraries, and I thought, okay, this is going to be more manageable. And as I was looking, I'm like, there's still some similarities in these. So I created a spreadsheet where I listed out every single date, every single sailing date, and marked each destination so I could see where are the differences. So that research left me with 4 distinct itineraries, and one of them only sails one time. And that's really just to get the ship into position for its eastern-western cruising cycle. So if you're looking to book one of these itineraries and the website says Western anything, Western Caribbean, and then they put anything else after it, for example, the 7-day Western Caribbean with Mexico, or the 7-day Western Caribbean Magical Castle Conjurers Cruise, those are the same itineraries. They're exactly the same. There's no difference. So after watching this video, if that's the cruise for you and you decide that you want to do one, pick the date that works best for your time and your budget. Don't worry, all of the Western itineraries are the same. And we'll get to the scores here in a second. However, the Eastern itineraries have 2 variations, and one of them honestly is not as good as the other. So stay tuned for the scores there. All right, so where are we going? Well, first, let's start with the Western Caribbean. All of the cruises, like I said, go to the same places. The Sun Princess goes to Cozumel, and then it goes to Mahogany Bay, Honduras, and then it goes to Belize City. Now, the order may change depending on port availability and kind of what they have booked, but just know those are your 3 destinations for a Western Caribbean cruise. All of the Eastern Caribbean cruises, except for one sailing, one time, go to Princess Key. And then the itinerary has some variation. It either takes you to Grand Turk and Amber Cove, or a little further east and you go to Puerto Rico and St. Thomas. All right, so let's get to the scores. First, let's start out with that one-time sailing. It may be of interest to you. So you have 5 days, you leave from Fort Lauderdale and you go to Amber Cove in the Dominican Republic, and then you go to Grand Turk. Not bad stops really at all. It's a 5-night itinerary. You have 2 ports of call and 2 sea days, which gives us a 1-to-1 port to sea day ratio, which I'm not a huge fan of. but it is what the itinerary is. This gives us a variety score of 2.5. We end up with a repeatability of 10, adventure score of 8, and relaxation score of 9 with an enrichment score of 8. Now, when it comes to the ship score, this is a brand new ship, and I use Cruise Critics ship score rating. So because they haven't had a chance to sail on it and give it their editor's score, I'm giving it the average score that Princess ships usually get, which is about 4.5. So we're going to stick with 4.5 here. I think that's safe. This one gives us a score per night total of 8.4 points per night with a Clint's Cruisability score of 42. That's okay. And if this itinerary on a per night cost is cheap enough, I would consider going on it. A nice little getaway. It's a little bit longer than a weekend. You do have the 2 days at sea. You have 1 day to kind of get into the Eastern Caribbean. You have back-to-back stops, and then you cruise back to Fort Lauderdale. We could be at work, right? Certainly better than that. Okay, let's stay in the Eastern Caribbean here. Let's look at the 7-day Eastern Caribbean with the Bahamas. This one leaves from, again, they're all going to leave from Fort Lauderdale. Then we have Amber Cove again, and Grand Turk, but now they've added in Princess Key. So it's exactly the same itinerary as what we just looked at with the 5-day, but there's another stop in there. This 7-night cruise has 3 ports with 3 sea days, and that's a 1-to-1 ratio. Again, I'm not a fan of 1-to-1. I want to see 2 ports for every sea day, but that gives us a variety score of 3.5 with a repeatability score a little bit better at 16, adventure 10, relaxation 13, and enrichment 10. Again, the ship score is 4.5, and we do get a little novelty bonus because we're going to Princess Key. It's a private island. There's some benefit to that. This gives us a total per night score of 8.21, which is actually a dip. That's because we have an extra sea day here where the point score doesn't go up. It's unfortunate, but again, it is what the itinerary is. And this gets a Clint's Cruisability score of 57.5. Okay, so let's stay in the Eastern Caribbean again with the 7-day Eastern Caribbean with St. Thomas. This one leaves from Fort Lauderdale, goes to Princess Key, then it goes to San Juan, Puerto Rico, then Charlotte Amalie, St. Thomas. And again, it's a 3 ports, 3 sea days, 7-night cruise. Because we still have 1 too many sea days, we have a variety score of 3.5. If you're wondering what the variety score could be, if we had 1 more port, we'd end up with a score of 4, which would be really nice. This one does get a repeatability of 25, which is a bit better. Adventure score of 11, relaxation score of 12, and enrichment score of 13. Ship score 4.5 with the novelty again because of Princess Key of 0.5, half a point there. The total per night score is 9.93, almost 10. It's a pretty solid score with a Clint Cruisability score of 69.5. So that is the first 3 itineraries, and that first one is just a one and done kind of thing. So you have 2 Eastern itineraries to choose from. Let's look at what the Western Caribbean itinerary is. So this one leaves from Fort Lauderdale, and then we have our 3 ports, again, Mahogany Bay, Belize City, and Cozumel. Still 3 ports, 3 sea days. That's a 1-to-1 ratio, which gives us a variety score of 3.5. The repeatability score here is 21, adventure score 15, relaxation score 12, enrichment score 13, and a ship score 4.5. And if you're doing the math, so far we are half a point less than the Eastern Caribbean with St. Thomas. It's interesting. However, because this one doesn't have a private island and doesn't go somewhere that's unique to the area, it doesn't get a novelty score at all, unfortunately. So we end up with a total per night of 9.86 and a Clint's Cruisability score of 69, half a point less than the Eastern itinerary. That's basically the same, right? Like, I would say it's the same, which means that we have a choice. You're going to be okay doing the Eastern with St. Thomas or any of the Western itineraries because they're all the same. All right, so my pick here really is the Eastern Caribbean cruise with St. Thomas. I mean, it's only half a point, so it's really negligible. But I really, really, really like St. Thomas. I really like Puerto Rico. When I think about where do I want to go back, I just have an affinity for St. Thomas and Puerto Rico. They're some of my favorite islands to cruise to, and I've been to Cozumel so many times, which makes me start to think, okay, another itinerary that goes to Cozumel. But then I had to stop and look at all of the things we've done in Cozumel. There is so much to do there. And if you've never been, it is absolutely worth going. If it's your first time going, take it all in. If it's your second time going, what I would recommend doing is trying to do the America's Cup sailing adventure. It is amazing. And the next time we're in Cozumel, that's what we're going to do again because we had so much fun doing it. There's a lot of great things to do in Belize City, and then you get down to Honduras, there's a lot of great things to do. So I don't want to discount the Western Caribbean cruise. It's a great place to spend your time. I just think that the Eastern Caribbean itinerary that goes to St. Thomas and Puerto Rico is a little bit better, particularly when you look at and compare it to the Eastern Caribbean with Bahamas itinerary. It's just not quite as strong. So if I had to pick just one, that would be it. And honestly, I don't think I would go on a back-to-back 14-day. I know Princess is selling them, and I'm sure people will book them, but I think there are better options. And I did do a 14-day itinerary review where I start to wonder if this may just be the perfect Caribbean cruise itinerary. Check that video out next if you haven't already seen it, and we'll see you next time.